you think, why do you think there's a trend to demonize meat? And why do you think the doctors, like my buddy's doctor, are so behind the curve in regards to still kind of regurgitating what I thought was like debunked information?
God, man, there's a lot to unpack there. In our book Sacred Cow, Diana and I went through some of the history in the West, in particular, of kind of the rise of vegetarianism and veganism. There was a great movie back in the mid '90s, The Road to Wellville, and it had Anthony Hopkins and some really notable characters in there. But it told the story of Harvey Kellogg, the guy that made like cornflakes. It's funny because naturopathic medicine kind of got it started in there, and you still see within naturopathy this really vegetarian vegan kind of slanted orientation, but it's where a lot of like fasting and water therapies, hydrotherapy and stuff like that was put together. But Kellogg and folks in his genre felt like meat was bad for the body, that there were these problems with the digestion and whatnot. And they also they had a very strong religious component in it, because the Seventh-day Adventist religion is kind of the foundational element of it. It is where modern dietetics came from and started from, and it is largely why RDs are so vegetarian in their orientation. And we kind of got into all those details, but Kellogg developed this cornflake to feed the people because he felt like when he did it, and he kept people on this kind of vegetarian, no meat, low nutrient density diet, their impure thoughts and sexual desires dramatically decreased, which was true. Like, these people were malnourished, and when male or female, when you're malnourished, like your libido drops. It's one of the first signs of, when things are problematic. And so that's some of the history of where this stuff comes from. But there's lots of examples around the world of in and out group and food defining who those people are. Like, there's some really gnarly stuff happening in India right now with like kind of Hindu nationalists going after Muslim populations, because the Muslims will consume beef, and clearly within Hindu religion, like, that's kind of a problematic thing. Nazi Germany was largely a vegetarian movement wrapped up, and it was used to vilify the kosher practices of the Jewish population. And I mean, there's within the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, there were some dietary distinctions within Cambodia that were also used to define in-group and out-group. And so this is a really common feature of when societies begin to fragment, or if you have a group that wants to define somebody as in versus excuse me, out group. The science on, say, like red meat consumption, like you can't swing a dead cat and not find some correlational study that meat increases your cancer rate by this amount, and eating 3 eggs is as bad as a pack of cigarettes, and on and on and on. And I don't want to dismiss that, but it takes a little bit to unpack it. But it's the correlation versus causation. Some things can be correlated and not necessarily causal. The flip side is definitely true. But when you really dig into the literature on this type of research, what we find is that they're asking people to recall what they've eaten days, weeks, months, and sometimes years previously, and then write it down, and then do correlational studies with the people that claim to eat less meat. Were they healthier? And there's all this stuff like healthy user bias, where people will say, well, I don't eat meat because people perceive it to be a bad thing. So by and large, people seem to lie an enormous amount on these things. And then when we've done some better studies, like there was a study that looked at kind of the equivalent of like a a Whole Foods Market shopper. So you would assume a population that is probably making better diet and lifestyle choices broadly, like they're just a healthier population, probably less likely to smoke, probably not drink as much alcohol and stuff like that. What you found in that circumstance was a positive correlation between meat intake and longevity and reduced disease. And then currently, I mean, this one is one of to me, it's very compelling, but the longest lived population on the planet currently is Hong Kong. And they also happen to be the highest red meat consumption, which is nearly 2 pounds of red meat per day.